Hello and welcome back to Global English Podcast, the place where we break down English for you, focusing on the concepts and strategies that truly transform how you use the language. I'm your host, Jordan.
And I'm Taylor. Good to see you, everyone.
We are diving deep today.
Oh, yeah. We're getting into something that is, I think, foundational for every single intermediate English learner. It's that question of how to move the words you know from your head into your mouth. And not just eventually, but quickly, automatically.
This is the wall. It is the critical juncture for so many people. You know, you can read a novel, you can watch a television show, and you understand maybe 95% of what's happening.
Your comprehension is high.
It's huge. You have this massive store of knowledge, right? But then, the second the pressure is on, like in a real spontaneous conversation, your mind just goes blank.
Poof.
Yeah. The words are there, I know they are, but they feel locked behind this, like, thick wall.
It's the most common frustration, and there's a name for it. We call it the receptive-productive gap.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, your comprehension, that's what you receive, so it's receptive, is just miles ahead of your production, your ability to actually, generate language when you speak.
And that's why the brain freezes.
It freezes because the retrieval speed needed for production is dramatically higher than the speed needed for comprehension. It's a completely different cognitive process.
I see that. That makes sense. When I'm reading, my brain has time to sort of look around, find the right meaning, connect the dots.
There's no time pressure?
None. But when I'm speaking, I have maybe half a second before the conversation moves on. So what's the secret? Are we just trying to train our brain to work faster? Is it like a muscle?
We are, but we are also teaching it a fundamental shortcut. A shortcut that native speakers use completely automatically.
Without even thinking about it.
Not at all.
Yeah.
They aren't recalling single words one by one. They are assembling language in chunks.
Chunks.
Yeah, ready-made pieces that are retrieved instantly as a single unit. It's why today we're going to show you why methods that focus on memorizing isolated vocabulary.
Like those huge word lists.
Huge word lists, or even a really fancy, elaborate memory palace. They will always fail to deliver the speed you need when you need it most.
So we're going to reveal the scientific secrets of collocations, those powerful word combinations.
We're going to dissect them so you can train your brain to speak effortlessly. And you mentioned a shocking L1 transfer error.
Yes, the one with the phrase mother language. You said it proves why this chunking approach is so essential, especially for a global audience.
That example is perfect. It's a brilliant linguistic puzzle we can solve together because it shows exactly how our native language structures can, interfere with our ability to choose the correct natural English word combinations.
That sounds like a mission. I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Okay, before we start unlocking all these secrets, we do have one small request. If you are learning with us today and you find this discussion helpful, please just take a quick moment right now, hit that subscribe button, and like this deep dive.
It really helps Global English Podcast reach more learners just like you.
It does. Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this core barrier and figure out exactly why knowing 10,000 words doesn't mean you can use 10,000 words.
Let's start at the beginning.
So let's start by officially defining the two different types of vocabulary that create all this frustration. When we discuss the vocabulary gap, what exactly are we talking about?
We're really talking about two things. First, the fundamental difference between passive and active vocabulary.
Okay.
And second, critically, the journey toward a state we call automaticity.
Automaticity. I like that word. Sounds like what I want.
It's the goal. Let's define these terms really clearly. So, passive vocabulary. This consists of all the words you can understand when you encounter them.
So when I'm reading a novel, listening to a conversation, watching a film.
Exactly. You recognize the meaning. You might even, grasp the nuances and the connotations. You get it.
Right. So if I read a sentence like, it is imperative that we contextualize the data, I understand it. I know imperative means necessary, and contextualize means, put into context.
But would you say it yourself?
No way. If I were the one speaking, I would probably just say, it's really important that we look at the context. Something much simpler.
Precisely. And that's the gap. Those high-level words, imperative, scrutinize, cultivate, they remain in your passive store.
Okay, so then active vocabulary is the opposite.
It's the set of words you can retrieve and use instantly, easily, without any conscious hesitation during spontaneous production, which means speaking or, real-time writing, like texting.
Okay, let's use the M1 analogy to really make this stick. I want to get this. So passive vocabulary It's like recognizing all the tools in a huge, messy, cluttered toolbox.
Ooh, I like that. Go on.
I can see the specialized saw, the heavy-duty drill, that specific type of wrench. I know what they are. I know what they do.
That's a great start. So in that analogy, what's the active vocabulary?
It's the small handful of tools you reach for instantly, without even looking, because you use them every single day.
Yes.
It's the hammer, the screwdriver, the tape measure. You use them quickly, fluidly. You build something without hesitation.
And the difference isn't the knowledge of the tool, is it?
No, not at all. It's the speed of its retrieval and immediate application.
That's the core concept. It's not about knowing, it's about doing.
And I think it's important to remember, this is true for everyone, right? It's not just a learner problem. Even in our native language, our L1, our passive vocabulary, is always just dramatically larger.
Oh, absolutely. That is a crucial comparison to make. You shouldn't feel frustrated that your passive word count is bigger.
Really.
That gap is evidence that you are successfully consuming sophisticated English content. It's a good sign.
Okay, I feel a little better.
The challenge then for a B1 learner is making a deliberate choice to move the most useful words, like the key academic collocations you might need for work, from that passive recognition state to active production.
Okay, let's paint a picture here. Give us a detailed scenario where this gap causes a real professional problem, not just a casual, oh, I forgot a word kind of hiccup.
Okay, perfect. So imagine this. You're a professional in, say, a non-English speaking country. You've been asked to summarize a complex 20-page industry report for an international colleague.
High pressure situation.
Very. Now, you read the paper. It's full of abstract details, nuanced arguments, high-level vocabulary. Your comprehension is perfect. You understand it 100%.
Okay, so my passive vocabulary is doing its job.
It's acing the test. But then you have to give the spontaneous summary in a video call, and you struggle.
Freeze.
The freeze. You can't find the precise academic words you just read, words like discrepancy, synthesize, or mitigate, or the structured phrases you need to articulate the main thesis clearly, quickly, and professionally.
So I just keep falling back on simple words.
You fall back on problem instead of discrepancy. You say important instead of pivotal. And that difficulty, that struggle to access the precise vocabulary under pressure, that is the gap in action. And, it can really undermine your professional credibility.
Wow, okay, that hits home. So the goal then isn't just knowing the word. It's training our brains to use it like we drive a car, without thinking.
Yes.
And this is the concept of automaticity.
It is. Automaticity is the transformation of abstract linguistic knowledge into rapid physical action. It is the absolute bedrock of fluent speech.
A bedrock.
Because it bypasses the conscious, slow translation and retrieval center of the brain. And here is the vital point from the source material.
What's that?
Only the things repeated enough to become automatic will remain available to you during moments of stress or pressure.
Okay, say that again. That feels really important.
Only the things repeated enough to be automatic stay with you when you're stressed. When you're nervous, your brain sheds everything that isn't completely ingrained.
So the speed isn't some mystical innate talent that some people have.
Not at all.
It's a consequence of repetition, of training the word or the phrase until it requires zero conscious calculation.
Exactly. Let's go back to the M1 analogy of physical skills. Think about learning to play a musical instrument, maybe the guitar.
Okay.
When you first start, you are thinking about every single note. Where does my finger go? What note is this? How hard do I strum?
It's all conscious, very slow.
That initial theoretical knowledge is like your passive control, but true musical fluency requires the fingers to move automatically, right? Hitting complex chords or scales without the conscious brain having to intervene.
That instant physical response.
That is true automaticity.
And a conversation is just like the music. The moment you stop to calculate the next step, wait, what preposition goes with this verb? The rhythm stops, the conversation freezes.
Just like a musician pausing mid-song, it breaks the flow entirely.
Okay, so how does this compare to common study methods? You mentioned the slow retrieval process of, what was it, a memory palace?
Yes. The M1 comparison becomes really strong here. We need to contrast the instant retrieval we want with the slow retrieval process of using something like a memory palace for vocabulary acquisition.
And we had a query in the source material from a learner who spent months on this. They meticulously created this elaborate memory palace, linking 200 new isolated words to specific locations and images in their mind.
A huge amount of effort.
A ton of effort.
Yeah.
And they could ace a quiz on those words. but they saw zero, absolutely zero results in their active speaking.
And it's so frustrating for that learner. A memory palace is an outstanding tool for long-term, high-volume memory storage. It's great for things like historical dates or, complex, unusual nouns.
But it fails the automaticity test.
It fails because the retrieval process is simply too sequential. It's too slow for speaking.
Why does that extra step kill the speed so much?
Well, think about it. If you're trying to say, I need to make a decision quickly, your brain just can't afford the milliseconds necessary to consciously, walk through a room in your mind.
Find the image for decision.
Find the image representing decision,
Yeah.
then decode that image back into the English word, and then assemble the sentence and speak it.
That's like 4 steps.
It's a huge cognitive load. That extra step adds way too much latency. It's not built for speed.
So, when I'm under stress in a meeting, my linguistic abilities are the first thing that gets sacrificed. My brain reverts immediately to the most automatic, simple words I know,
Right.
and it ignores all the fancy words tucked away in my meticulously designed mental library.
That is Taylor's analysis in a nutshell. The retrieval process is non-automatic. It's reliant on high-level cognitive function, which is the very first thing to fail under pressure.
Okay, so if the solution isn't memory calluses, what is the strategy? What do we do?
The solution is twofold. First, you still need tools like spaced repetition software, Anki, Quizlet, things like that. But you use them to build rapid associative memory, just the fast link between the L1 word and the L2 word.
So that speeds up basic recall.
It does. But second, and this is the fundamental part, never learn isolated words, ever.
Always in context.
Always learn words, sentences, phrases, or chunks. This prepares the word for immediate use in a real context.
That immediately shifts our focus. It's not about passive study. It has to be focused, deliberate practice.
That's the word, deliberate.
Okay, I want to put a spotlight on these two powerful words, deliberate and targeted. For so many learners, I think practice just means doing exercises or watching videos. How is this different?
That is a fantastic question. The definition of deliberate practice in this context means it's intentional. It's focused effort done on purpose, and it often implies really careful consideration and planning.
And targeted.
Targeted means it's directed precisely at a specific goal or a specific word or a specific skill that you have identified as a weakness.
So it's the complete opposite of mindlessly watching 5 hours of English videos and just hoping that some vocabulary sticks.
Exactly. That's passive input. This requires structured effort. For instance, if you realize you always struggle with prepositional verbs.
I do.
Your deliberate practice this week is to target 10 of those verbs. You practice them each in 3 distinct sentences, and then you try to use them in your self-talk.
It's not enough to just see a word once or twice.
Not for active use. You need specific, focused drilling. Let's run through our 5X examples of how we use deliberate and targeted outside of language learning just to get a feel for the words.
Great idea.
Okay, 1, formal. The financial committee took a deliberate approach to the budget review, ensuring every single expense was scrutinized line by line to maximize efficiency.
I can see the planning there. Okay, 1, casual. I'm deliberately avoiding my chores today because the weather is just too nice to stay indoors, and I know I'll regret it if I don't enjoy the sun.
Totally. It's a conscious choice.
What?
Funny weird. My neighbor's cat has a highly targeted interest in stealing my garden gnomes, ignoring every other valuable item in the yard.
It's very specific.
A very targeted mission. 1, historical. Targeted bombing runs were deployed during the war to minimize collateral damage to civilian infrastructure while maximizing impact on strategic military locations.
And finally, 1, philosophical. We must be deliberate in our pursuit of knowledge. Otherwise, we risk learning things randomly, rather than strategically building a cohesive, useful foundation.
See how in every case it's about intention and focus.
Absolutely. The intentionality is very clear. Now, let's go into an extended role-play scenario. So we are 2 study buddies, we're planning our week, and we need to use deliberate practice or variations of deliberate and targeted at least 5 times. We're modeling how to use these words naturally in a planning dialogue.
Okay, I'm ready. So I'm looking at my fluency goals for this week, and honestly, I feel like I'm stuck on using the word good for everything. Everything is good.
Oh, that's a really common challenge.
Yeah.
Look, if we want to see real improvement, we can't just consume more English. We need a more deliberate strategy, especially for expanding those adjectives.
I agree. I need to make my study efforts really targeted this time. So instead of reading a random news article, I'm going to find one focused entirely on art or design, since those fields use really specialized descriptive adjectives.
That's smart. That is highly targeted material selection. Okay, and for your speaking practice, you should design a deliberate drill. Force yourself to describe 5 different objects in your room using only B2 level adjectives. No good.
I will. And my self-talk practice, it won't just be narration. It will be targeted narration, focusing specifically on using 4 new adverbs of manner, like meticulously or carefully when I'm describing my daily actions.
Perfect. That focused approach is the definition of
Yeah.
deliberate practice. See, you're not just practicing, you're actively attacking a specific weakness you've identified.
Exactly. It's all about efficiency. I don't have time to waste.
None of us do. Okay, now let's quickly look at some important collocations and nuances for these words. I know we often say a deliberate mistake. What does that imply?
Yes, that's a key one. It means an intentional error. You did it on purpose. Other collocations include deliberate pace, which is a slow and thoughtful speed.
And for targeted.
Targeted advertising, which is aimed at a specific consumer group. Targeted audience, the intended group for a message. And targeted feedback, which is feedback focused on just one single error pattern.
And what's the crucial nuance for deliberate?
It's that it can sometimes imply malicious intent, a deliberate lie, or a deliberate insult. It means you were intentional, but in a negative, hurtful way.
Got it. Okay, so the core lesson from part 1 is that speed requires automaticity.
Right.
And automaticity comes not from learning isolated words, but from learning language in pre-assembled, usable chunks. This is what you call the chunking revolution.
This is the massive shift in thinking. We have to stop thinking like lexicographers, memorizing definitions from a dictionary. We have to start thinking like construction workers, using ready-made parts to build something quickly.
So we're introducing the concept of learning language in chunks, these ready-made expressions or groups of words that function as a single unit.
Precisely. Let's define the core concept, which is really the engine of all of this. It's a collocation.
Okay, what is a collocation exactly?
A collocation is a natural combination of words that are frequently used together by native speakers. They fit together, they sound right.
And the classic examples are things like take a picture, not do a picture, or make progress, not get progress.
Yes, or pay attention. If you use a different verb, say do a picture or get progress, you're still understood. People know what you mean.
But I immediately sound unnatural, sound non-native.
And that difference between being understood and sounding natural is the entire point of intermediate fluency. When you use the correct collocations, your English just flows. When you don't, even with perfect grammar, the listener has to pause slightly because the combination is unexpected. It creates a little bit of friction.
Okay, let's hit the M1 analogy to lock this in. Collocations are the ready-made meal kits of language.
I love that analogy. It perfectly illustrates the efficiency. Explain it.
Well, they taste natural because the ingredients, the words, were chosen specifically to go together by millions of speakers over decades.
Right, they've been tested.
And they save you time because you don't have to assemble the ingredients from scratch. You don't have to worry about complex grammar or which preposition to use. You just retrieve the whole pre-tested meal kit and speak it.
That is perfect. Now let's use the M1 comparison to clarify where collocations sit on the linguistic spectrum, because they aren't the only type of word combination.
Right.
We contrast collocations with 2 other things. First, we have free combinations. This is where words can be freely swapped without sounding unnatural.
So like read a book, read a magazine, read a pamphlet. The noun is free to change.
Exactly. And second, we contrast them with idioms. This is where the meaning is fully non-literal and restricted, like break the ice, which means to start a conversation.
Not to literally break frozen water.
Correct. The meaning is not obvious from the individual words.
So a collocation is somewhere in the middle. The meaning is transparent. Take a picture obviously means take a photo, but the usage is restricted. I can't change take to do without sounding off.
Exactly. The meaning is deducible, but the usage is fixed by convention, by tradition. Now, think of the scenario we used earlier. You're talking about the weather and you say, there was very strong rain outside.
You understand that?
I understand you perfectly. But you use strong instead of the fixed collocation, heavy rain. And that small, seemingly insignificant error instantly signals to me that you're probably translating from a different linguistic system.
It's a little flag.
A little flag that shows your thought process.
So collocations are the building blocks, but what about the bigger chunks? Like conversational formulas, you call those fixed phrases.
Right. Fixed phrases are complete, unchangeable expressions that work as a single unit. They're often used for conversational framing or linking ideas together.
So examples like, by the way, or
Yeah.
sooner or later, or in the long run.
They are fully fixed. You can't change a single word. They are prefabricated units that save an enormous amount of cognitive energy.
Okay, M1 analogy time. Fixed phrases are like emojis.
That is brilliant. Why?
Because they convey a complex piece of information instantly, without requiring you to assemble all the letters and worry about the grammar. When you say, to cut a long story short, you instantly communicate the idea of summarizing quickly. You don't have to generate the grammar for that complex concept yourself.
You just deploy the emoji. Brilliant. And the M1 comparison here is how essential they are for sounding native and navigating conversations smoothly.
So they're like conversational glue.
They're crucial for pacing and flow. They act as signposts for the listener. When you say, on the one hand, or from my point of view, or as a matter of fact, you're signaling to the listener where your thought is going.
And it makes you sound confident.
It does, and it also allows you to buy a few milliseconds to organize your next thought.
Okay, so to be truly deliberate in our practice, we need to know where to focus our effort. Let's look at the data from that Saudi University study that analyzed learner writing.
Right, because we need to maximize our returns. We don't have infinite time to study.
Exactly. So which types of chunks should we prioritize?
The corpus research found that verb plus noun collocations are the most frequently used type by intermediate learners. They accounted for exactly 50% of the total collocations identified in the student essays.
50%. That is incredible efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just prioritize learning, which verb pairs naturally with which noun-like, make a decision, take a risk, raise your hand.
Yes.
You are literally focusing on half of your active collocation needs.
It's a huge return on investment, and following closely behind were adjective plus noun collocations. They made up 31.2% of the total.
So phrases like heavy traffic, crucial decision, essential role.
Exactly.
So wait, between verb plus noun and adjective plus noun, we account for over 91% of the collocations the average B1 student produces.
That's what the data shows.
This confirms that our study time should be heavily targeted toward these two structures.
It's the most efficient path to fluency. Now, let's use the concept of fixedness.
Fixedness, okay.
This measures how restricted the components of the chunk are. Basically, how few alternatives exist for those words without sounding unnatural.
So if I find a highly fixed collocation, it means I absolutely must use those specific words together. There's no other option.
Exactly. And the data revealed a crucial progression. Higher proficiency learners consistently produced a higher number of highly fixed, more idiomatic collocations.
While lower proficiency learners
Or relied on less fixed, more general combinations. They were using free combinations more often.
So how do researchers actually quantify that glue rating? It sounds like a really abstract metric.
They use statistical association measures. The source material specifically mentions the log dice score.
Log dice score.
A high log dice score indicates a statistically significant, very strong, very fixed bond between the words. The study said a score between 7.1 and 10.5 indicates high fixedness.
Okay, let's translate this academic concept into a simple rule for our listener. If you see a word combination that a corpus analysis says has a log dice score over 7, that is a non-negotiable chunk.
Yeah.
You must learn those words together. End of story.
Precisely. That's its glue rating. And phrases like speak a language, which had a score of 9.29, or read a book at 9.74. These had high scores among the students.
You don't say a language or see a book.
Exactly. The high score validates that the combination is mandatory for natural speech.
We know learners overuse simple, general words like good or very, and we know they underuse more expressive, specific collocations.
Right, like saying big problem instead of serious problem.
But let's focus on the most challenging errors, the misuses caused by interference from our native language.
This is where our L1 structures wage war with the English language. This is where L1 interference or negative transfer happens.
Let's define this with the M1 protocol. So L1 interference happens when a learner's primary language structure is automatically but incorrectly transposed into English.
It's the brain taking the path of least resistance, which is unfortunately often the wrong path in the new language.
Okay, analogy time. L1 interference is exactly like using the wrong keyboard layout. You're typing what you know is correct in your head.
Right, the idea is perfect.
But because the structure is different, the buttons are in the wrong place, the output is just garbled. Your intention is correct, but the execution fails because of the transfer.
That is a perfect analogy, and the research provides a specific, beautiful data point that illustrates this perfectly, especially for learners whose first language is Arabic.
This is the mother language mistake.
It is. The corpus analysis of the Saudi university students revealed a strong tendency toward the literal translation of the Arabic collocation jitatsoni oluka alum,
Which translates word for word as.
the language, the mother. And so learners were writing mother language.
I see.
This is a direct word-for-word translation error, a negative transfer, because the native English fixed phrases are mother tongue, native language, or first language.
I want to challenge you, the listener, right now. Think about your own L1. What is a common phrase in your language that, when translated directly into English, sounds almost right, but is ultimately wrong because the collocate is incorrect?
That is a crucial area for deliberate practice. You have to identify your own L1 traps.
Absolutely. The source even quoted a student who used both in the same sentence. They wrote, "Learning other or different languages from your mother tongue is necessary beside your mother language."
You can see the struggle happening in real time. The L1 influence is fighting the L2 convention they've learned.
Was there another one?
Yes, a related error they identified was the misuse of have language to mean speak or know a language, which is also a literal transfer from colloquial Arabic syntax.
So understanding L1 interference isn't just about grammar errors. It's about recognizing that every language has its own arbitrary glue rating for collocations, and you can't assume the glue from your L1 will work in English.
It almost never does.
So how do we make those high fixedness chunks, especially verb plus noun and adjective plus noun, active in our speech?
The first strategy is thematic learning. You organize your collocations by themes: technology, academic performance, conflict, daily life.
Why does that help?
It helps your brain build stronger, more organized neural networks around related concepts. This makes recall context-dependent and much, much faster.
Give us some examples for student life from the source.
Okay, so if your goal is academic English, you need to drill chunks like raise your hand, pay attention, take notes, meet deadlines, and submit homework.
So when you learn the word deadline, you must learn the verb meet with it, not just the definition of deadline.
You have to learn them as a single unit. That systematic approach is essential, but you also mentioned something called the personalization mandate. This is where we make the chunks stick to our own lives.
Yes, this is so important.
To truly shift a word from passive to active, it has to be embedded in a personal, meaningful context. Your own stories, your interests, your experiences. This is the personalization mandate.
Because if it doesn't matter to you,
Your brain won't prioritize its speedy retrieval. It'll stay in the slow, passive toolbox.
this brings us to the M2 deep dive on the focus word we need for this. Contextualize.
Yes. Let's put a spotlight on contextualize. We often see this word in academic or formal settings, but the concept is universal.
The definition is the need to embed target words or information into a personal, meaningful context to aid rapid, relevant recall. It's all about building those mental anchors.
Exactly. If you simply memorize the definition of a word, it just sits there, abstractly. But if you use the word to describe a situation that made you feel happy or angry,
You've given it an emotional and contextual anchor.
and that ensures rapid retrieval later on. Okay, let's hear the 5X examples of contextualize.
I'll start. One formal. The historian contextualized the events of the Cold War by referencing the long-term economic instability that preceded the conflict.
Good. One casual. I need to contextualize why my internet is so slow right now. It's not just bad service, it's because the whole street is streaming a major football game.
I like that one. One funny weird. Can you possibly contextualize that strange sound coming from the ceiling? Is it a ghost, or is our upstairs neighbor learning the drums?
One historical. To truly grasp the significance of the Magna Carta, the document must be contextualized within the volatile political landscape of 13th century England.
And finally, fun philosophical. We contextualize reality entirely through our own subjective perceptions, which is why two people can experience the exact same argument so differently.
That really demonstrates its broad application. It's a very flexible word.
It is. Now, the extended role-play scenario. We are two colleagues discussing a challenging work report. We have to use the academic collocations, make progress, submit homework, or in this case a report, and meet deadlines. And we will integrate contextualize multiple times.
Okay, I'm ready. I am really struggling with this Q3 report. I feel like we haven't made progress on the analysis section, and the submission deadline is just looming.
We have to keep our perspective here. The data is overwhelming, I get it. So we need to stop trying to solve every problem at once. We need to focus on how we contextualize these financial figures for the board members.
But the figures look terrible. How do we contextualize a 15% drop in sales without making it sound like a total failure?
We contextualize it by linking it to the global supply chain issue. That's the external context. If we can contextualize the loss within those broader market trends, the board will see we are making progress on mitigation, even if we are late to meet deadlines.
You're right. We need to frame the narrative. We need to contextualize our failures as learning opportunities before we submit the report.
Exactly. Focus on the context, not just the number.
That was a powerful conversation. Okay, the 5X collocations and nuances for contextualize.
Let's hear them.
We frequently use contextualized data, which we just did. Also contextual awareness, historical context, social context, and the hugely important phrase, out of context.
Ooh, that one's important.
The key nuance of out of context is that it implies deliberate misrepresentation. That you took a quote or a fact and you removed the surrounding information specifically to twist its original meaning.
It carries a lot of weight in an argument.
A huge amount. It's a serious accusation.
Okay, we've established that fluency is about chunks and automatic retrieval. But even if the chunk is retrieved quickly from my brain, the execution still needs to be smooth.
Yes.
Speaking isn't just mental, it's a physical skill. It requires muscle memory.
That's absolutely right. The transition from abstract linguistic knowledge to rapid production requires turning that knowledge into a physical, repeatable action. If your mouth muscles and your tongue aren't trained for English sounds, you will still freeze up or sound unclear, even if you know the right words.
So what's the first technique recommended in the source material for building this physical memory? It's called shadowing. How do we move this from just a passive listening exercise to an active physical drill?
Okay, so shadowing involves listening to a short section of native English audio. A clip, a sentence, a podcast segment. You pause it, and then you immediately repeat what was said out loud.
But it's more than just repeating.
So much more. The goal is intense mimicking. You must copy the speaker's intonation, their stress, their speed, and their rhythm as closely as you possibly can.
So I'm not just repeating the vocabulary. I'm copying the music of the English language, the ups and downs of their voice.
Precisely. You are training the musculature of your mouth and your throat to produce the specific physical movements required for English sounds. Start small, with short phrases, and then gradually increase to longer sentences.
Can you slow it down?
Yes, you can use software to slow down the audio, ensuring you catch the full rhythm. This builds muscle memory, which improves both your clarity and your speaking fluency at the same time.
And the second key technique is self-talk. This seems simple, but how do we make just narrating our day into a structured, effective practice?
Self-talk means speaking to yourself in English throughout the day. This creates constant, low-pressure practice opportunities when you are completely alone. It is your personal, judgment-free laboratory for testing out new chunks.
What are the key moments we should target for this self-talk? When should we do it?
The source outlines several structured moments. First, morning routine narration. As you're doing it, you say it, I'm making a cup of coffee. I decided to wear the blue shirt.
Okay.
Second, decision verbalization. Should I take the bus or walk? I think I will walk because it's sunny and I need to clear my head. You talk through the choice.
I like that.
Third, emotion expression. Just verbalizing simple feelings. I'm feeling slightly anxious about the meeting today. Fourth, activity planning, talking through your to-do list. And finally, reflection practice, where you summarize your day in English before bed using the new collocations you learned.
That narration is essential because it forces your brain to operate and improvise in English. It primes it for spontaneous use later.
It reduces that translation latency we talked about earlier, but we need to ensure the physical production of the sound is precise. This requires focus on enunciating words.
Okay, I want to put a spotlight on enunciating. I always thought this just meant speaking loudly or formally, but you're saying it's purely about physical clarity.
That is the key distinction. The definition of enunciating is the physical use of the tongue, your lips, and your teeth, your articulators, to produce distinct, clear, and projected sounds. Clear articulation, according to the source, is absolutely essential for intelligibility.
And if we don't enunciate clearly, if we mumble or just run our words together, even if we use the perfect collocation, the listener won't catch the meaning.
Exactly. Misarticulations, unclear sounds, are often mistaken for ignorance, even when the speaker knows the material perfectly. Let's hear the 5 next examples.
Okay.
One formal. The defense attorney enunciated every syllable clearly, ensuring the jury fully grasped the complex legal arguments.
Ill casual. Please enunciate better. I can't hear you clearly over the music. You're just kind of mumbling your request.
Been there. One funny weird. He enunciates words so slowly and deliberately, it almost sounds like a robot trying to deliver a stand-up routine.
Huh. One historical. The orator was famed for speaking with great enunciation, making his powerful message accessible to the entire assembled crowd.
And one philosophical. If the outward expression is muddled, the inner idea often remains obscure. Therefore, clarity of thought requires clear enunciation.
That ties it right back to the importance of communication. Okay, now for the extended role-play scenario. This is a physical drill. I'm going to try a tough tongue twister, and you need to guide me to exaggerate my mouth movements to refine my articulation.
As recommended in the source.
All right.
Let's do it. What's the tongue twister?
Let's use. Betty Botter bought some butter, but she found the butter bitter.
That's a classic articulation challenge. Okay, say it normally first at your normal speed.
Betty Botter bought some butter, but she found the butter bitter.
Good. But now I want you to exaggerate the movement of your lips and your tongue for the B and T sounds. Really feel the physical effort required to make those stalks. Articulate every single syllable. Go.
Exaggerating significantly slow motion. Betty Botter bought some butter, but she found the butter bitter.
Much better. That conscious exaggeration trains the mouth and tongue muscles to be more precise, even when you speed up later. That deliberate physical repetition is what makes articulation unconscious.
I can feel the difference. I'm actually aware where my tongue is hitting my teeth and where the sound is projecting from. Okay, what are the 5X collocations and nuances?
We use enunciate clearly, distinct sounds, misarticulations, speech clarity, and improved articulation. The key nuance here is that the core purpose of improving enunciation isn't about formality. It's primarily about intelligibility.
About being understood.
Making yourself understood by the listener, especially when the environment is challenging or when you're speaking a new language.
So speaking clearly relies on 3 interconnected and vital components. Let's dissect them with the M1 protocol.
Yes.
We know the 3 components: articulation, pronunciation, and pacing. Let's solidify those definitions.
Okay. Articulation is the physical way you produce words using your mouth organs. Pronunciation is saying words correctly according to their accepted phonetic pattern in the target language.
And pacing.
Pacing is the speed and the flow at which you deliver your message.
Okay, M1 analogy. Let's use the mechanical clock again.
A great metaphor. Go for it.
So articulation is the fine internal mechanism, the gears, the springs. If those physical parts aren't precise, the whole timekeeping mechanism just breaks down.
Perfect. What's pronunciation?
Pronunciation is the numbers on the clock face, the accepted, standardized pattern that everyone recognizes.
And pacing is the steady, thoughtful sweep of the second hand. It has to maintain an appropriate, regulated rhythm.
Right. If the pacing is too fast, the second hand just flies around and nobody can read the time. And if the gears are rusty, poor articulation, the whole clock freezes.
Exactly. Now, for the M1 comparison between articulation and pronunciation, this is a common source of confusion for learners.
It is for me. Can you have perfect articulation, but wrong pronunciation?
Absolutely. Think about it. Articulation is the physical act. Did I open my mouth wide enough? Did I vibrate my vocal cords? Pronunciation is the linguistic pattern.
So, am I saying the long I sound correctly in time, or am I using a short I?
Precisely. An error in articulation leads to mumbling or slurring. But an error in pronunciation leads to miscommunication, even if the sound itself was clear.
And pacing is the third leg of this stool. Why is speaking too quickly so detrimental, even if our pronunciation is good?
The source material is explicit on this. Speaking too quickly causes words to blur together, which is perceived as mumbling. It obscures your important points, and frankly, it signals nervousness to the listener.
But speaking too slowly can sound robotic and disengaging.
It can. So thoughtful pacing is key, and this is where strategic pauses become a tool of fluency, not a sign of struggling.
Explain that. That's counterintuitive.
Well, strategic pauses are critical. They serve 2 vital functions. For your audience, they provide time to absorb your key points. And for you, the learner, they give you necessary milliseconds to retrieve the right collocation or organize your next thought without the listener perceiving a delay.
So it creates a natural, powerful rhythm.
It does. The source also gave us some physical drills for this.
Tongue twisters.
Yes. They recommend maintaining good posture and breathing from the diaphragm for proper voice projection. These are physical habits that support a clear, confident delivery. They turn speaking into a holistic, almost athletic activity.
Okay. We have the linguistic tools, the chunks. We have the physical training, the articulation. But if we don't conquer the mind, we will still face that wall of anxiety. This is the biggest monster, the psychological barriers.
This is often the most neglected area of language learning. Research shows that confidence is sometimes the single biggest predictor of success, even over raw aptitude. Psychological barriers like fear of failure, speaking anxiety, and stereotype threat cause learners to actively withdraw from speaking opportunities.
It's a paralyzing feedback loop, isn't it? The fear causes withdrawal, the withdrawal limits your practice, and the limited practice just destroys your confidence.
And this anxiety is particularly acute for adults. When you are highly capable and articulate in your native language, having to revert to the level of a child in English stumbling, making mistakes, can create a massive sense of vulnerability.
The effective factors are powerful.
The source even mentions specific, heavy concepts like cultural identity concerns and stereotype threat.
What are those?
Well, when learning a second language, some learners feel a tension with their cultural identity, which can create resistance. And stereotype threat, that's the awareness of negative stereotypes about one's cultural or ethnic group, can trigger intense anxiety and cause cognitive overload.
So that makes them freeze up exactly when they need to be fluent.
It literally shuts down the productive part of the brain. So the first step to dismantling all of this is establishing a safe foundation.
And that foundation is psychological safety.
It means establishing an environment, a classroom, a study group, your own personal practice space, where you feel absolutely secure taking risks without any fear of judgment.
Let's do the concept dissection. The formal definition is explicitly framing mistakes as valuable learning opportunities rather than as personal failures.
Yes. The evidence suggests that speaking with courage and communication flow holds far greater practical value than speaking with grammatical perfection.
I love that shift in perspective. Mistakes are just data points. They show me where I need more deliberate practice.
Exactly. What's the M1 analogy?
Learning is like driving a car.
Go on.
You cannot learn to drive without stalling the engine, hitting a curb, or taking a wrong turn. Those mistakes are necessary components of learning how to navigate the road. They are proof that you are trying and improving. They're not failures.
Perfect. Now, what's the M1 comparison between supportive and destructive correction?
Okay, destructive correction is the enemy of psychological safety. It's correcting every single error, which guarantees the learner will just shut down and withdraw.
Right. And supportive correction.
That's what we want. It uses selective correction, focusing only on one or two pattern errors, and this brilliant technique called recasting.
Explain recasting.
Recasting is when your conversation partner simply repeats what you said, but they use the correct structure without explicitly saying you made a mistake.
Yes. It maintains the flow of communication while simultaneously providing the correct linguistic input. It's elegant.
This leads to the scenario. The importance of judgment-free zones. If you're doing a language exchange, you have to set the rules beforehand. You might agree that for the first 20 minutes, the focus is exclusively on maximizing fluency and communication flow, not on accuracy.
You're giving yourself permission to be imperfect.
Exactly. So we've created the safe environment. Now, how do we systematically challenge our anxiety without overwhelming ourselves?
We have to use a structured technique from behavioral therapy. It's called graduated exposure therapy.
Okay, another concept dissection.
This is a systematic approach to desensitization. The definition is identifying situations that provoke low to moderate anxiety and then gradually working your way up the scale, confronting the anxiety in controlled, small doses.
Why is this important? It sounds uncomfortable.
It is intentionally uncomfortable. By intentionally planning minor failures, you, the learner, reclaim control over the source of your anxiety. When you choose to intentionally mispronounce a difficult word in a safe setting or force yourself to use a complex sentence,
You normalize the experience of error.
and you prevent the emotional collapse of spontaneous mistakes, you're taking the power back.
Okay, M1 analogy. It's like weightlifting.
Exactly. You start with small, weights-easy interactions like self-talk to build basic confidence. Then you gradually increase the weight by moving to more complex speaking situations. You build linguistic strength and resilience.
You wouldn't try to present a major technical paper on your first day of English class.
You build up to it.
Let's build an extended scenario for an anxiety hierarchy. Let's move from level 1, no anxiety,
Yeah.
all the way to level 8.
Okay. Level 1, zero anxiety. Talking to yourself. Self-talk. Narrating your breakfast. Level 2, practicing a complex sentence or a tongue twister alone until your articulation is flawless.
Okay, still safe.
Level 3, ordering food or coffee at a busy cafe. The interaction is formulaic and very brief. Level 4, recording a short voice memo for yourself using 3 new collocations.
Okay, now moving a little higher. Level 5, a structured language exchange with a partner where you have strict rules. They can only correct you once every 5 minutes.
Good. Level 6, participating in a low-stakes team meeting where you only need to contribute 1 opinion or 1 observation.
And finally, approaching the top. Level 8, a mini presentation to your colleagues using technical language and new academic collocations.
This intentional control of risk makes success feel achievable, and it makes failure feel like data collection, not defeat.
And the final psychological step is metacognitive awareness.
This is teaching yourself to manage anxiety internally, using positive self-talk before stressful interaction, visualization of a successful outcome, and goal setting.
And remember, the goals must be specific and achievable.
Don't aim for speak perfectly. Aim for successfully use 5 new verb plus noun collocations in conversation this week. It's concrete.
Okay, we've covered the entire system: mind, chunks, and body. Now let's drill down and fix 3 massive common collocation and usage errors that prevent automaticity in intermediate learners.
Let's do it.
Mistake number 1. The misuse of do versus make for decisions. This is the classic confusion that L1 interference creates. Can I say, I need to do a decision by Friday? It feels active, like I'm performing the decision.
That is the thought process exactly, but in English, the combination is fixed. It's highly conventional and highly resistant to substitution. Native speakers would overwhelmingly say, make a decision.
Why make?
We see make as the creative, deliberative act of choosing an outcome, not the physical action of doing something. You are creating the decision.
Okay, let's do the M2 deep dive. Spotlight on the chunk. Make a decision.
The definition is the process of choosing an option after consideration, the act of creating a result.
Let's hear the 5X examples for make a decision.
1, formal. The committee must make a difficult and politically sensitive decision regarding the company's relocation before the fiscal quarter closes.
1, casual. Have you finally made a decision about which university you're going to attend next year? Time is running out.
1, funny weird. I'm trying to make a crucial decision about my socks this morning, but every single option feels wrong for a Tuesday.
I've been there. 1, historical. General Washington made a very quick decision on the battlefield during the retreat, which ultimately saved the lives of thousands of soldiers.
And 1, philosophical. We constantly make decisions, both big and small, that fundamentally shape our future, our character, and our perception of morality.
That shows the wide range of use. Okay, now for the extended role-play scenario. 2 colleagues discussing a high-stakes, stressful buying decision. We have to make a decision and its variations multiple times.
Okay, so I cannot decide whether to sign this new contract or wait for the competitor's bid. I really need to make a decision by the end of the day, and I am so stressed.
Look, you're putting way too much pressure on yourself to make a perfect decision. Remember what we learned. The lob dice score on make a decision is very high. It's non-negotiable, so practice using it. You just need to gather the data and then simply make the decision.
But I'm so afraid I'll make a poor decision that costs the company millions. Maybe I should just delay until next week.
No. Sometimes the inability to make a final decision is worse than choosing the wrong option. You have to move forward. What kind of decision-making process have you used so far?
I've done all the research. I need to stop stalling and make a crucial decision now.
Excellent. Now, what are the 5X collocations and nuances for a decision?
We frequently discuss a crucial decision, a poor decision, a final decision, the decision-making process, and the important phrase, regret a decision.
And the nuance?
The nuance is that make emphasizes the creation, the deliberation, and the consequence of the choice, which is why it pairs so naturally with the word decision.
Okay, next mistake. This is where the L1 transfer hits again. I might say, I was late because of the strong traffic and the strong rain this morning. I sound strong, but unnatural.
That's the perfect example of where you need the correct collocate. Native speakers use heavy when we're referring to the intensity or the volume of precipitation or the volume of movement, so heavy traffic or heavy rain.
And we reserve strong for?
More for abstract concepts like power, flavor, or influence. A strong argument or strong coffee.
Okay, M2 deep dive. Spotlight on heavy. We need to expand this definition beyond just physical weight.
The broader definition is having great weight, amount, or intensity, and its meaning is intensely dependent on its colocate. It's a perfect showcase for the power of chunking.
Let's go through the 5x examples for heavy.
1. Formal. Due to unforeseen market shifts and poor investment choices, the corporation suffered heavy financial losses this quarter.
1. Casual. I can't believe I agreed to carry this box. It's far too heavy. It must weigh 50 pounds.
Funny weird. That political joke was far too heavy for the wedding reception. The mood in the room immediately shifted and nobody laughed.
Whoa, awkward. 1. Historical. The infantry soldiers during the 19th century were known to carry incredibly heavy packs filled with rifles, food rations, and tents for extended periods.
And first, philosophical. After the devastating news, the silence in the room held a deep, heavy meaning full of unspoken consequence and dread.
Wow, that last one really shows how heavy can apply to emotional weight, not just physical weight. Okay, the extended role-play scenario. I need to explain my commute troubles using heavy for traffic, rain, and the mood in the office.
Okay, I'm surprised you even made it in today. The weather forecast was terrible.
Oh, it was chaos. We had heavy rain from the moment I woke up, and then the main highway was closed due to an accident, which caused unusually heavy traffic for 3 hours.
You must have felt exhausted walking into the office. I bet the atmosphere was pretty heavy because everyone else was late too.
It was very tense. Plus, my workload is particularly heavy this week because I'm covering 2 clients, so I immediately felt the pressure of the day.
That sounds like a truly heavy start to the week.
It was. Okay, now the 5x collocations and nuances for heavy.
We use heavy sleeper, which is someone who is hard to wake up. Heavy accent, a very noticeable, strong foreign accent. Heavy workload, heavy industry like manufacturing or steel production, and heavy drinking.
And the critical nuance.
The nuance is that heavy often replaces very strong or intense when you're referring to volume or frequency, whereas strong is usually reserved for abstract power or physical force, like a strong wind.
Okay, final mistake, and the one that often makes English sound the least expressive. I say, my teacher is a good person and I hope I get a good job. It's correct, but it's so boring.
It's grammatically perfect but linguistically imprecise, and the goal of intermediate learning is precision. Good is a placeholder word. Instead of good person, aim for a kind person or a responsible person.
And instead of good job.
Aim for a well-paying job or a rewarding job. This is how you demonstrate advanced fluency.
Okay, let's do the M2 deep dive on fluency. We've used this word a lot. What is the precise definition that links speed, chunks, and accuracy?
The definition of fluency is the ability to speak or write a language easily, smoothly, and accurately. It's that effortless flow of words that we achieve through automaticity.
It's the seamless, quick transition from thought to sound.
Exactly. Here are the 5x examples for fluency.
1. Formal. The final research report demonstrated high linguistic fluency, presenting complex statistical ideas with seamless clarity.
1. Casual. I don't care about perfect grammar. I'm focused purely on conversational fluency so I can talk easily with my classmates.
1. Funny weird. His excuse for being late lacked both fluency and conviction. He clearly just fabricated the story in the elevator.
1. Historical. For many centuries, the ability to read and write with great fluency was the single greatest sign of intellectual status in European society.
And 3. Philosophical. True fluency allows a seamless exchange between internal thought and external expression, removing the cognitive translation delay between the mind and the mouth.
That's the goal. Removing the delay. Okay, now, the extended role-play scenario. Let's debate the definition of success in language learning. Are we aiming for perfection or fluency? We have to integrate fluency and its variations multiple times.
Okay, so some learners argue that if you still make preposition errors, you haven't achieved true fluency. What do you think?
I disagree completely. I define success as high conversational fluency. I would much rather speak with 90% accuracy but maintain a constant flow than speak with 100% accuracy and constantly pause to correct myself.
But the audience perception matters, right? A professional might need higher academic fluency, which demands greater accuracy in writing. It seems like we need different levels of fluency for different contexts.
That's why targeted practice is essential. We practice collocations to boost our fluency in high-frequency speech, acknowledging that we can always improve our accuracy and push towards a near-native fluency over time.
So flow and communication are the primary measures of success.
Absolutely. We seek practical fluency.
What are the 5x collocations and nuances for fluency?
We use achieve fluency, boost fluency, improve fluency, reading fluency, which is the speed and smoothness of reading and near-native fluency.
And the nuance.
The crucial nuance is that fluency is often measured by the listener's perception of ease and automaticity, not by a detailed linguistic analysis of the speaker's error rate. It's about how you sound and feel to the other person.
That was an extremely deep and detailed look at how to activate your vocabulary. It is time for the pop quiz. Let's see if our listeners and I were paying attention.
Ready. Focus on those newly fixed chunks.
I'm ready.
Question 1. If you are using a log dice score to choose which word combinations to study, what are you measuring?
I am measuring the fixedness, the glue rating of the collocation. A high score means the combination is non-negotiable.
Perfect. Question 2. If you intentionally plan a low-risk interaction, like ordering a difficult item at a restaurant, to help manage your speaking anxiety, what systematic technique are you using?
That is graduated exposure therapy.
Excellent. Question 3. What is the critical verb plus noun collocation we must use when discussing choosing an option? Do we do a decision or make a decision?
We must make a decision.
Spot on. Question 4. When you mimic a speaker's rhythm and speed to train your mouth muscles, what specific technique are you performing?
That is shadowing.
Fantastic answers. You absolutely nailed the deep dive, demonstrating great fluency yourself.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We covered mind, chunks, and body. Let's distill the key takeaways for immediate action.
Number 1, focus on chunks. Stop learning isolated words. Master collocations, especially verb plus noun, which is 50% of your usage, and adjective plus noun, 41%, to build speed and automaticity.
They are the ready-made meal kits of the language.
2, train the body. Use targeted practice techniques like shadowing and structured self-talk to make speech physical and clear. Focus on good articulation and thoughtful pacing to achieve intelligibility.
And 3,
manage the mind. Prioritize psychological safety and view mistakes as proof of effort. Use graduated exposure therapy and an anxiety hierarchy to conquer speaking anxiety systematically.
and this requires deliberate practice.
It does. And here's your micro challenge for the next 24 hours. Challenge yourself to intentionally use the make a decision chunk 3 times today, even if it feels slower than do a decision at first. Notice that slight physical effort of using the new pattern.
That's achievable and highly targeted. Thank you for guiding us through this essential topic. We really hope this deep dive gave you the specific, actionable strategies you need to unlock your active, spontaneous voice.
And remember, your confident, fluent future starts with the next word you choose to say.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to Global English Podcast. I'm Jordan. See you next time.
And I'm Taylor. Bye.